Hello everybody and welcome to episode 4 of Friends and Scales. My name is Alex with Captain Aquatics Fins and Scales, and today we are going to be talking about a topic that has nothing really to do with reptiles at all, but with an entirely different group of animals known as arachnids. So, before we do anything with this episode, I want to say a quick disclaimer in that this episode is meant to kind of help people understand arachnids a little bit better, which if you don't know what an arachnid is, that's the group of insects, most commonly known as like spiders and scorpions and that kind of stuff. The purpose of this episode is to teach you a little bit about it, for you to understand their behavior, why they do what they do, and to kind of help alleviate some of the fear that a lot of people have over them. However, the big disclaimer is that I'm not encouraging people to go out and just handle these animals willy-nilly. While many of them are perfectly fine and don't have venom and aren't dangerous to humans, there are species of these animals that have venom and can be medically significant. And just like a hornet, just because traditionally the venom might not do anything to you, you can be allergic and you can have reactions. So I do not encourage you to just go out and handle wildlife without knowing what you're getting into and doing more research before you do. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk first about everybody's favorite animal, the spider. Now, today we have two different spiders with us, but the first one I'm going to bring out is Curly. Curly here is a curly-haired tarantula, Mo. Mo here is a curly-haired tarantula. Curly is one of our other spider ambassadors who's not with us today. So, Mo here is a curly-haired tarantula. She is not quite full-grown. She's still pretty young. She'll probably get about an inch or two larger than she is now. Curly-haired tarantulas are a very, very common pet tarantula. They're one of the most common beginner tarantulas that pretty much anybody can have or get. And they're mostly known for this because they don't really have much venom. Their venom is usually less severe than a typical bee sting. And they're usually known to be pretty calm and docile for the most part. Now, all of these tarantulas that I have today and other arachnids that I have today, these are all fairly new to our programs. So these are not ones we're bringing out into public yet. They're still ones we're working with to get them nice and tame and calmed down. Now, if you have a pet tarantula, I'm going to show you how to properly handle it. The most important thing is to keep your hands steady and calm, and you just lightly nudge the back legs and kind of the back of them, and let them work their way over to you as opposed to trying to grab them or pick them up. Another thing to know about tarantulas, and pretty much all arachnids, is that any kind of fall is very, very dangerous for them. They are very fragile animals despite their sometimes large or scary appearance. Even just having them a foot or two off the ground, if they fall, that could be deadly for them. So you really want to keep yourself nice and calm and steady when you hold them. But let's talk real quick, let's talk a little bit more about spider behavior in general and a little bit less about the handling and everything, because that's really the point of this video. So a typical spider temperament, so we did a video on snakes a while back where we talked about how they are defensive animals and not necessarily aggressive animals. Spiders are kind of the same way, except spiders are honestly more shy than they even are defensive. They mostly just want to be left alone. They set up their webs or their traps and they kind of just want to be there and be left alone by things. They don't really love having a whole bunch of people around them or trying to touch them or do stuff with them. And usually when a spider does bite somebody, it's because it's acting in defense, or it's been startled, or it thinks that it is in danger. There's really three main different kinds of hunting that spiders can do. Tarantulas, for instance, such as this curly-haired tarantula here, Mo, These are ambush predators, so they'll kind of sit on a log or whatever and they'll jump out and catch whatever they're trying to get. They do not build webs like you typically see. Then, of course, there are the web-building spiders that build their webs and wait for a prey to fly into the web, and then they'll go over, wrap it up, and eat it. And then the last kind, which is kind of its own subgroup, is a trapdoor spider, which kind of builds a web fully on the ground. They dig a little hole in the ground, they have a little trap door that hides them, and then they lay out webs that kind of act like tripwires, and when an insect walks over it, they'll jump out of the hole and grab it. Those are kind of the three main ways a spider hunts. A spider typically does not hunt by trying to chase down its prey or, trying to grab them and hold on to them. It's ambush, bite, and if it gets away, it gets away. Now, let's talk a little bit about defensive behaviors from spiders, because most spiders are not really aggressive at all. They'll hunt their insects, but they're complete glass cannons. They can't really do anything if there's something bigger than them trying to eat them. They have very little defense. Their main defense is threatening posture. They kind of have a scary appearance, so they'll raise up their legs and, make sudden jerky movements to try to scare away whatever's going for them. See, kind of like she's doing there, like when I raise my hand, she's raising up her legs, trying to show me that she's scary and I shouldn't mess with her. For many species, such as the curly hair here, all these little hairs on them are actually a defensive measures. That's what's called urculating hairs, and they can kick their hairs at things, which will cause kind of mild rash and irritation. Not really dangerous, just annoying and irritating, meant to kind of distract you and get you unfocused. She's flicked a couple of hairs onto me right before the show, and it was a little bit itchy, but now it's pretty much completely gone from my wrist. I was going to have them zoom in and kind of show the little bit of redness and irritation, but it's completely gone at this point. It doesn't last very long. It's just meant as a temporary defense mechanism. And then kind of the last thing that they will do as a last-ditch effort if they are grabbed or they are, they feel they're already in possession of what they assume is a predator, the last thing they will do is try to bite. Now, you may be saying, well, what about all the people that get bitten in their sleep? They aren't grabbing at the spider. They aren't making sudden movements. They aren't being threatening. The spider just walked up and bit them for no reason. Now, the reason that happens is a behavior known as anchoring, which is something that spiders do and is kind of the leading cause for all those kind of seemingly aggressive spider attacks or bites. So anchoring is essentially what spiders do when they feel unsteady. They don't feel threatened, they just feel unsteady. So if I have my two arms here, and I was holding her in this arm and I was shaking my hand like that, in her mind, there's nothing really threatening about this, but she might be thinking my arm is a branch and it's really windy out. Now, as we've already covered, a fall to a spider, if she fell off that branch, that would be very, very dangerous for her. So she needs to hold on, but, she may have 8 legs, but those 8 legs can only go so far. So, her last-ditch effort is to bite and hold on to whatever surface, bite into whatever surface she is onto and hold on that way. Usually with those kind of anchoring bites, they won't release venom, and if they do release venom, it is not intentional, but it is not an attack. It's just something that they can do if they feel like they're on an unsteady surface or if they feel like they are at risk of falling. So, the next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to bring out one of the other spiders, and then we can move on to our next group of animals. So I'll put her back, and you can see, she doesn't necessarily want to go in there. I'm not going to grab her. I'm not going to force her in. All I can do is try to guide her in. But if I grab her, she's going to feel very threatened, very scared. So all we need to do now is just move down that little leg so it doesn't get pinched. And then we can put that back on. Never want to try to grab a spider, especially from above, because that will make them feel very threatened and very freaked out. The next spider that we have with us today is This is Dan. He is a Arizona blonde tarantula. Now this guy is a little bit bigger, as you can see. He's a little bit closer to an adult size of a curly hair tarantula. And this is adult size for them as well. Arizona blondes are a lot like curly hair tarantulas. There's not a whole lot different, just other than where they come from and their locality. Their bites aren't that much worse than like a bee sting. They're pretty slow moving. They do have those irritating hairs they can flick, but for the most part, they don't really, they're pretty chill. And most spiders are like this. Whether you believe it or not, most spiders don't really have it out for you. As long as you don't startle them, as long as you're calm and relaxed and aren't really doing anything threatening to them, most of them aren't really gonna bother you. The worst they're gonna get is a little bit curious and try to figure out whatever is going on around them. So let me set him down here. I would love to get a zoom in on this guy's face here. So you can see with this guy's face that he has those two little bumps in front of his eyes, which are the slits that the fangs sit in. You can see how he has his back leg there raised. That is defensive posturing to prepare to flick hairs. This is, of course, a new environment for him, and these guys are new to doing this kind of thing. But the main takeaway for this is, I'm trying to be a little bit broad in what I'm talking about, and obviously every spider is different. Different species have different temperaments. Some spiders are very defensive. They get spooked very easily, and some spiders are like this, that they don't really get spooked that easily. However, spiders are not the only thing that I want to cover today. Actually, this is a great shot. You can see those little bumps on his face. You could see them right there, which is where the fangs stay. So I'm literally just going to let him crawl back in all on his own, just like that. Nice and simple. So the next thing that I want to talk about is the next group of common arachnids that people fear or that people kind of have a misconception about. And this is honestly one that I think is more feared than spiders, and that is scorpions. Now I'm going to get this guy out. This is Lucifer. He is an emperor scorpion. Emperor scorpions are one of the largest species of scorpion in the world. Lucifer here is not full grown by any means. He is only about half grown. I'm going to kind of slowly have him come down. He's been in a little bit of a mood today, so I'm going to try to be nice and gentle and easy with him, not freak him out too much. I'm going to come right down there, just like that. So, scorpions are also arachnids, like spiders. Now, arachnids are classified by having 8 legs. In order for an animal to be classified as an arachnid, they have to have 8 legs. There's other classifiers as well, but I'm not going to go super into detail. Now, with scorpions, a lot of people know that, a lot of people fear scorpions. A lot of people think that most scorpions are deadly or dangerous or, don't go near a scorpion or you're going to die. In reality, there is about 2,500 species of scorpion. Of those 2,500 species, only about 25 of them are really medically significant or deadly. Most scorpions, they might give you a welt. It might be painful, but they aren't going to be medically significant in the long run. Again, not encouraging you to go out and pick up the first scorpion you see. You got to know what kind of scorpion you're dealing with, because you certainly don't want to accidentally pick up one of the ones that is very medically significant. Now, scorpions are kind of the same thing as spiders. I'm probably going to be rehashing my points a little bit here. They're much more defensive than they are aggressive. Scorpions are also very fragile, despite the fact that they look very armored. And a scorpion's first defense mechanism is going not to be to sting. A scorpion's not going to sting you as their first line of defense. It's going to be to pinch. Now, that pinch can certainly be shocking and a little bit unsettling. But in general, it's not going to be too severe. So this guy Lucifer here, he's pinched me a few times, and it's not really painful. You know, like I'm going to have him come over to my hand if you would like to. Come on, buddy. And again, you can see I'm not picking him up. I'm kind of just trying to guide him onto my hand, just like that. And you can see he'll kind of sit on my hand. He's going to wander around. He might even pinch me. You might even see that on this video. He might use his claws and pinch one of my fingers. But that's kind of him. They do the same thing as spiders as well. They need to anchor themselves. You know, they may have all these legs and everything, but they're small, and the hooks that keep them that way are small. For the most part, it's kind of just rehashing the same point as spiders. You know, they're generally much more of a defensive animal than they are aggressive. They don't really seek out people, you know, to debunk a couple of common myths. You know, you may have seen videos in Australia of, you know, people walking and then there's a big spider chasing them. And the reason for that isn't because the spider's trying to be aggressive. It's actually because the spider's trying to find shade. It's very hot, and it's not chasing you. It is chasing your shadow. It's chasing the shade. It's trying to chase the break from the hot sun, not necessarily you. Now, my encouragement here is kind of just to respect them. You know, these animals are shy. These animals are not really ones that love doing what I'm doing with them right now. You know, these guys are captive bred, so they're a little, you know, they were raised with humanity and they were raised with people. They were raised being handled. But in general, the best practice if you see a spider or a scorpion is just to leave it alone. It's not out to get you. It's not going to hurt you. There's no real need to kill it. And if you don't want it in your home, my advice is always just to grab a cup, use a stick or a broom handle to guide it into the cup, and then let it outside. For the most part, they really aren't going to do any damage. They're actually very important. They play a very key role in ecosystems and controlling bug populations and, you know, trying to keep infestive or nuisance bugs out, such as mosquitoes and flies and roaches. You know, nobody likes those. And these guys are the ones that primarily deal with that. So a little bit of a shorter episode. I didn't go too in-depth on any one particular species. I kind of wanted to talk more in general and kind of just show you guys through my handling and everything. I mean, none of these guys were being aggressive. Sure, a couple of them were a little bit, you know, squirmy, but none of them were trying to hurt me. None of them tried to bite me. None of them tried to sting. You know, for the most part, they're pretty relaxed animals who just get shy and nervous sometimes, and because of that, they get a very bad rap. So that's going to be the end of this episode. Please tune in next week to see what we have. Our episodes might be a little bit spaced further apart. We have some pretty major changes happening, but I will see you guys next time.